My child, do not skip this. Listen close and keep your heart steady. There is a knock on the door that will change everything. The air will feel heavier than it should, and your hands will know the weight of a secret. He has been carrying the same small folded paper for weeks. It sits like a stone in his pocket and hums with a life that is not his own. When he finally speaks, his voice will be softer than the room deserves. Each word will drop like glass into a still pool and send circles out into the places you did not think could move. You must learn this now, before the moment slips into the silence that follows endings. What he says will be both a release and an instruction. Do not let anyone rush you through this. Hold the minutes like a fragile lamp and let them cast their light slowly across the floor. There are things that cannot be hurried even when time refuses to wait. There are confessions that require the dignity of being heard whole. He will ask you to sit with him as if asking for one small mercy. Sitting becomes a ritual when the body begins to move toward its last quiet places. Look at him as if you can read his years from the lines in his hands. There will be a kind of honesty in his tired eyes that does not flinch from the truth. He will speak of a name that lives between two breathless memories. That name will change how you map the past and how you plan the days that remain. The words will arrive like a tide you have not predicted. You will feel the shore of your life rearrange in response. He wants you to know about the ledger no one spoke of. It is not a list of finances but of promises written in a language of small habitual things. The ledger holds the quiet transactions that built the life you both lived. A promise to be at a certain window at dawn, a night letter tucked under a plate, a favor paid in full and never mentioned. He will hand you the ledger as if handing over a map. The map will show you how to find the places that were never meant to be lost. Among the lines there will be a single entry written in a different pen. This entry will have been left by hands that wanted to be remembered. That entry will tell you where to look for the proof of his insistence. It will direct your feet toward a small locked space, a drawer, or a box. Inside that small place there will be objects that hold the argument of his life. A ticket stub, a faded photograph, a matchbook from a restaurant where vows were made without being named. Each object will sing a melody you have heard before and will force you to finish the phrase in your head. The melody will make you ache with recognition and with a new understanding of the shape of his choices. He will tell you about a secret kept to protect someone else. The secret was not meant to work as a prison, but it became one because fear can be clumsy and stubborn. He will tell you how he failed to speak up when silence might have saved a heart. He will speak the confession as if cleaning a wound with careful hands, firm and remorseful in equal measure. Listen without smoothing his words. Remorse that is unspoken becomes harder to carry than any medical report. There will be a name he repeats, not to wound, but to anchor. Repeating the name calls the truth into a room that is becoming very small. When he tells you where to find the papers, trust what is folded and not what is framed. Truth hides often in the things we ignore because they seem ordinary. He will tell you of a second life he led in service of protection and atonement. This life will involve letters and appointments and a string of small, secret acts that kept a family safe. You will discover that the person you thought you knew had been working in the quiet corners. Those corners were lit for others, and now they will become bright for you. There will be numbers in the ledger that mean medical centers and old addresses and street names you have forgotten. Follow them like footsteps to where he left parts of himself for you to collect. He will instruct you to open a lockbox that has been waiting under a false bottom for years. The lockbox will not contain riches in the currency you expect, but it will contain evidence that legitimizes his choices. Evidence will feel like both vindication and accusation all at once. You will hold proof of why he kept his distance, and you will taste the bitter mercy of understanding. There will be a single envelope within the envelope marked by a color you both once favored. Inside that envelope will be pages he wrote and then rewrote until the ink became the memory you now inherit. Read every line he leaves for you as if reading a map drawn by a hand that knows it will no longer be steady. His handwriting will tremble in places where the truth hurt most. He asks you to forgive not because he demands absolution, but because forgiveness allows you to carry less. Forgiveness is an offering that frees the living more than it settles debt for the departed. Do not mistake forgiveness for forgetting. Remembering honors the ledger and the lessons it contains. He will tell you who to tell and who must never be told. This list is not random and will protect people whose lives could fracture if the secret breaks the wrong way. He will let you in on a debt that was paid in silence. That debt will have been paid with nights of vigilance and days of small denials. He will speak carefully about money and property as if they are secondary actors in a play where the main role was always protection. He will explain why he chose privacy over proclamation in matters that others would have shouted about. The reason will be simple and terrible at the same time. He sheltered someone because exposure would have broken a fragile life beyond repair. He asks you to promise to preserve dignity and discretion in the days that follow. Discretion will be the bomb he asks you to apply where rumor could inflame. He will tell you where to find a key hidden under a plant pot or sewn into a hem. The key will open a drawer containing a photograph that makes the whole story plausible. The photograph will be older than you remember and truer than you imagined. It will show faces arranged in a truth that had never needed explanation before now. You will see someone you thought you knew standing beside someone else you had assumed was a stranger. That stranger will now be the axis on which the rest of the ledger turns. He will guide you to patchwork letters placed carefully between books on a shelf. These letters will be archived conversations in which the stakes were being negotiated in small sentences. Each letter will show the logic of secrecy and the tenderness that justified it. Reading them will feel like finding a hidden conversation in the walls of your life. When the time is right, he will hand you an address with trembling lips. Go there alone first and listen to the echoes of what was left unsaid. At that address lives a person who has also been carrying a burden like yours. They will not be prepared for this reunion, and you must arrive with patience and gentleness. Bring the photograph and the ledger and let those items speak on your behalf. Objects have a way of softening the sharpness of surprise for those who fear the past. You will find in that other life a child who remembers a game and a laugh and nothing of the ledger. Protect the child with the same fierceness that you once protected smaller joys. He will ask you to make a choice about how the truth is revealed to that child when the child is old enough to carry it. Age will be a friend in time, and protection must be given in measures that match maturity. There is a funeral he does not want and a memorial he quietly prefers. He asks you to choose ceremony over spectacle because memory needs space to breathe. Plan a quiet gathering where people can name what they loved and what they forgave. In that room you will let grief be performed as a sacred act rather than a public trial. He leaves you instructions to place an old song at the center of the gathering. The song will bind people through shared sorrow and shared gratitude. Do not allow the song to be replaced by a narrative that seeks to astonish. The plainness of a melody will contain more healing than any dramatic revelation. There will be a man or woman who believed in him without knowing all the reasons. Invite them close and let them speak of faith in small and human ways. His requests will be peppered with practicalities because he is a man who wants to leave room for action in grief. He will insist upon handling bills, legal papers, and appointments before his breath grows too thin. He will ask you to collect his things as if harvesting a field. Each item you gather will be a seed for a future memory that will help you understand him better. Do not throw anything away in haste, even items that feel unimportant now. What seems trivial often becomes a key to understanding later on. He will give you a list of names he wants to see one last time. Call them gently and offer a meeting that allows explanation rather than interrogation. Some meetings will be tender and some will be hard. Let both kinds happen and allow them to be what they must be. There will be an envelope marked with a child's nickname and inside it a letter he wrote but never sent. Deliver that letter in person and read it if the child asks for words that anchor. He will direct you to a garden he used to tend in secret. There you will uncover the place where he buried a small box full of promises made to himself. In the box will be a ring or a locket or a small talisman that once belonged to someone else. It will be an inheritance of love and apology wrapped together in rusting metal and faded thread. He will ask you to choose who among his friends receive specific things that mean something only to the two of you. Those choices will honor the silent economy of favors and loyalty he maintained. There will be a neighbor who disliked him and yet brought soup once during a fever. Invite that neighbor to stand in the circle of memory if the neighbor wishes to. He will confess an act of cowardice that cost him more than his pride. He will ask you to carry that confession without amplifying it into a weapon. Some will demand retribution in the name of justice. You will need to decide whether justice is the same as healing in the context you now inherit. He will tell you the answer he settled upon in his own heart and why he chose mercy over anger. Mercy will be a thread you may choose to follow or to set aside, and the choice will tell you much about who you are becoming. When his breath begins to change, he will ask you to read aloud the ledger if you can. Words spoken in the presence of leaving have a way of anchoring souls and making departures less lonely. There will be pauses between each line you read where he will nod in approval or close his eyes as if hearing a beloved tune. Those pauses will be gifts for you both to hold and remember. He will ask you to promise to plant something living where he can be near it after he is gone. A tree or a rosebush will be a living letter that keeps the continuity of his presence. Tend to that plant with intention and let its growth mark seasons of healing. Each new bud will be a small resurrection of hope in the soil of your sorrow. He will provide detailed instructions about a small trust he set up for someone vulnerable. This trust will be modest in money but vast in meaning because it secures a future that was fragile. Manage it with care and transparency so that the safety he purchased in silence does not become a new source of contention. Open ledgers invite ease, and clarity prevents the corruption of noble intent. He asks you to keep his goods organized and his paperwork visible to those who must manage it. Chaos is the enemy of legacy and order becomes a kindness to those who follow. There will be one last request that sounds like vanity but is instead a request for dignity. He will ask for a plain shirt and a familiar scent to be used when the world is told of his end. Respect this request because the ritual of departure should match the life that preceded it. Dignity at the end is a final gift to those left living. He will warn you in whispers against letting anger rule the narratives left to you. Anger will be loud and greedy and will demand spectacle rather than solace. You will be tempted to make large declarations in response to the small secret he kept. Resist that temptation and choose instead small acts of care that rebuild what secrecy once protected. He will hand you a list of small repairs and favors still owing to neighbors and friends. Complete them slowly as acts of restitution and as ways to stitch the frayed edges of the community he loved. There is a request about a watch that stopped on a certain day and a journal that is only half full. Continue the journal with your own handwriting when you feel the need to speak back to him. Write about the way his laugh sounded when it was honest and how the rain once paused as if to listen. Let the journal be a bridge, not a monument. As his breaths shorten, he will clasp your hand and tell you the simplest truth he preserved. He will tell you that love sometimes lives in the smallest of choices and that he regrets how poorly he sometimes chose. He will ask that you promise to love more readily than you judge. Promise this not to absolve him, but to honor the lessons his flaws taught you. When he slips beyond speech, do not feel you have failed him. Silence is not always absence and presence does not always require words. Hold him until you cannot hold him any longer and then let him go like a bird released to its sky. Grief will arrive with its own timetable and must be allowed to unfold at its pace. In the weeks after, you will find allies in the most unexpected places. A friend will bring soup, a stranger will speak a kind word, and the world will continue with a gentle stubbornness. He will leave you a document instructing you how to access a safety deposit box when necessary. This box will contain legal papers that put resolution into motion more efficiently than rumor ever could. Follow the instructions exactly and do not allow haste to break the careful structure he established. He had the foresight to make the legalities smooth so that the personal work could be the focus of your grief. There will be moments when you will want to shout the ledger from rooftops. Breathe and choose instead to carry what must be carried and to speak only what has been deemed safe. Years later you will return to the garden and see the plant you planted thriving. You will find that time has softened the edges and the living thing holds his image more kindly than you expected. You will read the ledger again and discover entries you missed the first time. Those entries will be small clarifications that rearrange the last pieces of the puzzle into place. You will tell the child, when they are ready, about the ledger and about the small sacrifices that once shielded them. Tell it with tenderness and with the humility of someone who learned the price of protection. One day the ledger will be folded and passed along with your own careful note attached. Legacy will continue as the currency of care moves from one hand to the next. You will find forgiveness is not a destination but a habitual practice. It will take daily, persistent work to make forgiveness the climate in which your heart can live. Do not let him be reduced to a single secret or a single failure. He was a whole person who loved through imperfect means and who tried to keep others safe in the only ways he knew. Carry his contradictions with gentleness and let them teach you nuance rather than resentment. Complexity is the only honest portrait of a human life. When you tell the story many years hence, let the ledger be part of the telling but not the entirety. Wrap the secret inside the larger narrative of a life lived with intention and with error. Teach the child that truth must be accompanied by courage, and that courage looks different in every season. Teach them to name names when necessary and to shield hearts when the world is crueler than wisdom allows. In the place where his voice goes silent, build a room of remembrance where laughter is permitted. Grief needs small doors to enter and exit, and memory needs rooms furnished with ordinary things. Honor his final requests and then make space for your own needs to surface. You have been given a great responsibility and also a great permission to be human. Carry his ledger like a sacred object and not like a weapon. A ledger records more than debts, it records the architecture of a life. In time you will see that the secret he kept was not only a burden but also a means of protection that once worked. It preserved softness and allowed some to remain unbroken. You will learn that not all concealment is betrayal and not all revelation is redemption. Discernment will become your quiet teacher. Hold the child, tell the stories, and plant the tree. This is how the living continue the work of love after the one who taught them is gone. There will be days when the ache is sharp and nights when it feels endless. On those nights, read the ledger aloud as if each line were a prayer. The final instruction he will leave is a wish rather than a command. He will wish that you live without the constant weight of suspicion and with an open willingness to forgive. Make that wish your counsel and live by it as best you can. Let it guide you through decisions and into the gentle business of making peace with what was. When you gather with others to remember him, let the ledger be present but not the centerpiece. Let the center be the shared warmth of people whose lives were touched by his small steady hands. In the end his life will not be defined solely by the secret he kept but by the everyday ways he showed up for others. That is the legacy worth tending in your days ahead. This is the message he leaves for you now, in the dwindling hour. Take it, hold it, and let it alter the course of your next seasons with care.